few television shows have left a lasting mark quite like MASH star. For more than a decade, audiences returned week after week to watch a unique mix of humor and heartbreak set during the Korean War. The show followed the lives of doctors and soldiers working in a mobile army hospital, where difficult situations were often balanced with clever jokes and emotional moments. At the center of the early seasons was Gary Burghoff, who played Radar O'Reilly, a soft-spoken and kind-hearted clerk who quickly became one of the most loved characters on the show. Radar was known for his innocence, loyalty, and quiet strength, and many viewers felt a deep connection to him. However, as the years passed and reunion specials began bringing the cast back together, one familiar face was often missing. Gary Burghoff rarely appeared alongside his former co-stars, and fans began to wonder why. His absence stood out even more because of how important his character had been to the show's success. While other actors returned to celebrate the legacy of MASH*, Burghoff chose a different path, one that kept him away from the spotlight. To understand his decision, it is important to look not only at his role on the show but also at his personal experiences during and after his time in television. The success of MASH*, was built on a strong group of actors who brought their characters to life in a very real and believable way. One of the most important figures was Alan Alda, who played Hawkeye Pierce. His performance helped shape the tone of the show, blending humor with serious moments in a way that felt natural. Many of the actors had connections to the military or understood the emotional weight of war, which added depth to their performances. The show itself was not an instant success, as it struggled in its early seasons before finding a larger audience. Once it gained popularity, it became one of the most watched programs on television and remained that way for many years. Behind the scenes, however, life was not always easy. Long filming hours, creative differences, and the pressure of maintaining a successful show created challenges for the cast. Even though the actors worked together to create something special, they each had their own personal struggles. For Gary Burghoff, these challenges were especially difficult, as he was deeply connected to his character and carried a heavy emotional burden during his time on the show. While viewers saw Radar as calm and dependable, the reality behind the scenes was more complex. Gary Burghoff's connection to Radar O'Reilly was unique because he had already played the same character in the original MASH*, film before the television series began. This made him the only main actor to carry his role directly from the movie into the show, which added to his strong identification with the character. Over time, however, this connection began to feel overwhelming. Playing the same role for many years can be exhausting, especially when the character becomes so popular that people start to see the actor and the role as the same person. Burghoff later spoke about how difficult it was to separate his own identity from Radar. He worried that he might always be seen as that character and nothing more. This kind of pressure can be very hard for any actor, as it limits their ability to grow and explore new opportunities. At the same time, Burghoff was also dealing with personal challenges in his life, including problems in his marriage. These issues added to the stress he already felt from working on a demanding television show. As a result, his experience on MASH*, became more difficult over time, even though the show itself continued to succeed. Another important part of Burghoff's story involves his physical condition, which he worked hard to keep hidden during filming. He was born with a condition that affected his left hand, making some of his fingers shorter than usual. Although this did not stop him from acting, he worried that it might distract viewers or change how people saw his character. To avoid drawing attention to it, he developed small habits while performing. He often kept one hand in his pocket or held objects like clipboards to cover it. Camera angles were also carefully planned to keep his hand out of focus. While these efforts were successful, they added another layer of stress to his work. Constantly thinking about how to hide something can be tiring, especially during long filming days. Despite these challenges, Burghoff delivered a performance that felt natural and genuine, which is why Radar became such a beloved character. However, the effort required to maintain that image contributed to his growing exhaustion and may have played a role in his decision to step away from the show before it ended. When Gary Burghoff eventually left MASH*, it was a major moment for the series. His departure was written into the story through an emotional farewell episode that showed Radar leaving the camp to return home. For many fans, this was one of the most touching moments in the show's history. However, behind that emotional scene was a deeper reality. Burghoff had reached a point where he needed to step away for his own well-being. Years of playing the same role, combined with personal struggles and the pressures of fame, had taken a toll on him. He also felt that his contributions to the show were not always fully recognized, which added to his frustration. Leaving the series allowed him to focus on his personal life and regain a sense of balance. While some actors continue working in the spotlight for many years, Burghoff chose a different direction. His decision showed that success in television does not always lead to happiness, and sometimes stepping away is the best choice a person can make. After leaving MASH*, Gary Burghoff slowly moved away from Hollywood and the entertainment industry. Instead of continuing to chase acting roles, he chose to focus on a quieter and more private life. He spent time with his family and explored personal interests such as painting and creative projects. This shift was important for him because it allowed him to build an identity outside of Radar O'Reilly. Many actors struggle with life after a major role, especially when that role becomes a defining part of their career. For Burghoff, stepping away from the spotlight helped him avoid that problem. However, this decision also meant that he was less involved in public events related to MASH star. While other cast members attended reunions and appeared in special programs, Burghoff often chose not to participate. This created the impression that he was avoiding the show or did not want to be associated with it anymore. In reality, his absence was not about rejecting the show but about protecting the life he had built after leaving it. Over the years, fans continued to notice Gary Burghoff's absence from reunion specials, which led to many questions and assumptions. Some people believed that he had disagreements with other cast members, while others thought he simply did not want to revisit the past. The truth, however, is much simpler. Burghoff preferred a life away from constant public attention, and reunion events often bring a great deal of media focus. Attending these gatherings would have meant stepping back into a world he had chosen to leave behind. That does not mean he completely avoided talking about MASH star. On certain occasions, he did return to share his memories and reflect on the show's impact. These appearances showed that he still appreciated the role and understood its importance to fans. However, he chose to limit these moments rather than make them a regular part of his life. This careful balance allowed him to honor the past without letting it define his present. In the end, Gary Burghoff's decision not to attend many MASH* reunions was not based on a single reason but rather a combination of factors. His deep connection to the character of Radar, the pressure of fame, personal struggles, and his desire for a quieter life all played a role. While fans may have wished to see him reunite more often with his former co-stars, his choice reflects a personal journey that goes beyond television. Burghoff gave audiences a character that remains one of the most loved in television history, and his performance continues to be remembered with great respect. Even though he stepped away from the spotlight, his contribution to MASH* has never been forgotten. His story is a reminder that behind every famous role is a real person with their own challenges and decisions. Sometimes, choosing a peaceful and private life is more important than staying in the public eye, and that is exactly the path Gary Burghoff decided to follow. Few television shows have left a lasting impact quite like MASH star. For more than a decade, audiences returned again and again to watch a story that blended humor and sadness in a way that felt very real. Set during the Korean War, the series followed doctors and soldiers working in a mobile army hospital, where life was often chaotic and unpredictable. What made the show special was its ability to make people laugh while also showing the emotional cost of war. Among the many memorable characters, Radar O'Reilly stood out as one of the most loved. Played by Gary Burghoff, Radar was gentle, loyal, and often seemed to understand what was going to happen before anyone else. His quiet nature and kind personality made him the emotional center of the early seasons. However, as time passed and the cast began to reunite for special events, fans noticed something unusual. Gary Burghoff was often missing. While other actors returned to celebrate the show, he chose to stay away. This raised an important question that many people still ask today: why would someone so closely connected to such a beloved show avoid its reunions? To understand this situation, it helps to look at the environment in which MASH** was created. The show was not just another comedy, it was a complex story that required actors to balance humor with serious and emotional scenes. This kind of work can be demanding, especially over a long period of time. One of the key figures in shaping the show was Alan Alda, who played Hawkeye Pierce. His performance brought depth and authenticity to the series, helping it stand out from other television programs of its time. The cast worked long hours and often dealt with challenging material that required both emotional and physical energy. Although the show became very successful, it did not start that way. In its early days, it struggled to find an audience, and there was even a chance it might be cancelled. When it finally gained popularity, the pressure to maintain that success increased. For actors like Gary Burghoff, this environment could become overwhelming. While viewers saw a well-crafted show on screen, the reality behind the scenes included stress, expectations, and the constant need to perform at a high level. Gary Burghoff's connection to Radar O'Reilly was deeper than that of most actors with their roles. Before the television series began, he had already played Radar in the original MASH* film. This meant that he had been living with the character for many years, even before the show became a hit. At first, this connection helped him bring authenticity to the role. However, as time went on, it also became a challenge. Playing the same character for so long can make it difficult for an actor to separate their personal identity from their work. In Burghoff's case, many people began to see him as Radar rather than as an individual. This kind of situation can be frustrating because it limits opportunities for growth and change. Actors often want to explore different roles and show different sides of their talent, but being strongly associated with one character can make that difficult. Over time, this pressure can build up and lead to feelings of exhaustion or even dissatisfaction.